you anywhere.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to it.
Good morning to the folks. What up to the youngins and bless up to the world.
And then Tay just put your info on blast like that.
It's what the people want to know, bro. My bad.
Nah, bro. Ladies and gentlemen, what's happening? It is the Morn'in Shake with me, your host, Xavier Hendricks, and of course, my co-host, Mr. J. Paris.
Yeah.
And of course, the co-host from the Wednesday warm-up. But before she says what's up to you, Mr. Paris, I see that yesterday you've been having a good day. It was a little bit of a touch and go over there. Your heart was racing at certain points. You wanted that time to hurry up and get done.
Yeah, bro. That entire game, bro, like you say, my heart was racing. But I'm happy for the gents, bro. I'm happy for the boys. But again, it's still early days. I don't want to talk too much. Looking forward to a good season, especially at the fact that, you know, a lot of people wrote us off. But
even you were a little bit, especially with that team, because you know that's a good team. Even you were like,
and we bear in mind, bro, we didn't have about 3 or 4 of our top players playing.
Facts.
But yeah, good morning. It's a Monday morning, and we ready, broski. What's happening?
We ready. We're getting into a deep conversation once again this morning. In case you haven't noticed, we are not afraid and we don't shy away from these conversations, and of course we're open to conversation. This guy's getting hot. Now put it on. We're not shying away from these conversations. We get into it, and of course when I get into these serious conversations, I like our guest, well, not even a guest, more so the host from the Wednesday warm-up on the show.
Now, you know when she has a book out.
Then it's going to get serious. Please help us welcome Leandra Boyson.
Good morning.
Libby, please just grab this. I just want to go and give this to Clay.
Okay, sure. But I'll sit here. I can just go on like this. No, cool.
That's cool.
Thank you so much for having me once again, Xavier and Jay, on your show. I don't take it lightly. These conversations are obviously the kind of conversations that, do get me pumped. So it's conversations around culture, morality, those kinds of things. But before we get into that, speaking of the game, I watched the bitter end of the game. I think I came in at 68 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
And that's when I was watching. And I know that I think it was in the first half. Man City scored.
Now, they actually scored a goal in the second half.
Oh, it was the second half.
But if you track back, the run of play of that goal, Erling Haaland actually not injured. He actually fouled for Bino.
Yes.
But now they but the ref had, you was.
And I think something like a few minutes went on with the game, and then only I don't know, I heard the conversation downstairs. So I was at Xavier's parents' house yesterday when everybody was watching, and I'm telling you, there was a ruckus happening.
But that wasn't a goal, though.
There was so much screaming and shouting and fighting.
No, bro. It wasn't a goal, bro. Oh, I thought you were playing it. It wasn't a goal, bro. Erling Haaland pulled the shirt of Fabinho.
Bro.
Yeah.
Going towards the goal. It wasn't a goal.
So it was a foul.
It was a foul.
Yeah.
It was a foul. And Erling Haaland took the ball out of our keeper's hand. The keeper had both hands on the ball.
Okay.
Hands on the
I see.
tip.
I didn't watch that, but I heard the
That was
conversation
not a goal
downstairs.
at all.
And
that
then,
was not a goal at all.
and
Did you see how they were playing our players? Did you see how Bernardo Silva was pulling Salah's shirt?
I
There's
saw that.
pictures and everything. Come on,
that.
sore losers.
There was a lot of
and these are all
afterwards
let's be real. These are all Man United
United
supporters. That's why I said the trophy. Apparently the Premier League trophy is here in SA. It's on a world tour or something like that. And I tweeted. I said the only city supporters here in SA are United.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Same with the game. It's
Yeah.
only United supporters that are.
And the thing is, it doesn't even matter what the results were. The fact of the matter is, United fans were going to find something at foul with Liverpool. But then Klopp gets a red card.
Nah, he was upset over the fact that Bernardo Silva pulled. Bro, you must see that. Nah, coaches can't get cards like that, bro. But no, Bernardo Silva pulls the shit. I'm gonna show you the footage, bro. That was insane, and he doesn't get a free kick.
So this guy got a red card, bro.
The coach gets a red card. But that game, bro. Yeah!
And then there was an extra 10 minutes.
Yeah, at the end, because then Jota also got injured.
But then, what was it? I think it was like in the 96th minute. There was also a close goal for Liverpool.
There was in actual fact because City was playing.
No,
Not
it's
working
upstairs.
because City was playing a high line.
That's fine.
A high line. Liverpool was obviously breaking on the counter attack.
Do you have a stick there?
So Nathan, we've got some comments, Jay, that you might want to
let
get
me-
into.
let
You
me
know,
get-
Nathan is in the comments.
Yeah, he's nice and early today. I see.
He's early today because he knows.
bro.
Yeah.
He's early today.
Mate, that was a
Let's-
goal yesterday, no?
that was never a goal, bro. They must go worry
I
about.
think that's on the play.
They must go worry about trying to
Send
beat
Jesse a message
Newcastle.
and tell him to get my stick in my bag there upstairs.
Where is Jesse? Might as well come on the show and let's talk ball.
No, we're
Nah,
not
bro.
talking
We have
ball.
a serious
kidding.
conversation to cover. But I'm trying to get this thing to play, but it's not playing. It's busy doing some weird stuff. But anyway, Clyde, I got you.
Oh yeah, it's your stick.
The stick is corrupt.
Yay, take it out.
Just not corrupts the whole computer.
Sure.
Jay, Clyde, you don't have a stick there, no?
Okay, go on so long. I'm gonna go get the stick because
Okay, go
you're
get the
fat
stick.
tight.
Are we playing Tate?
No, not today.
'Cause
Alright, so the
I know
conversation.
Zakes.
Nah, bro, the conversation gets a little bit serious today. So on the weekend, well, last week, on the weekend, there was a brand new documentary released by the Daily Wire, and a woman called Candace Owens. I don't know if you know her, if you're familiar with some of her stuff that she does, but basically, what happened was that she comes out and kind of proves that the whole Black Lives Matter situation, it was all a scam.
Talk to Ye.
It was all a scam.
Talk to Ye.
Yeah, we're gonna speak about that. So obviously what happened was that I think the initial idea, and we're gonna show the trailer now, and then Lee and then we can jump through because we watched it. You didn't watch it, right?
Nah, bro.
And then we're gonna go through what we thought about the documentary and also what we agree with and what we disagree with, because I think the culture we're living in now, there's no room for even debate or conversation anymore. Everyone's just trying to cancel each other, and if someone's feeling some type of way, they just want to delete people's things and whatever, and so it starts getting a little bit tricky when you have to start asking yourself the question like, yo, why are we living in a time where if someone disagrees with something, they just get cancelled, or the thing just gets deleted? Why can we not have a conversation? Why can't we be civil about the conversation that's been held? Why can't we say, okay, this is your point of view, this is your perspective, this is how you feel about it, this is what you think about it, what's your point of view, but now we're living in such an impatient, and the irony of the whole thing is that the most impatient people are the ones to claim to be so accepting, and you must accept everyone and believe what they say and da. But those people are fast becoming one of the most intolerant, quick to cancel, hands on the cancel button real quick. So it's a toss-up, and then that's the question I want to start off with before we get into the trailer. And then once we're done with the trailer, we're gonna actually we'll speak about what our point of view is about this whole Black Lives Matter. Is it a scam? And in fact, the question of today is not even just if Black Lives Matter is a scam. Is this a whole woke agenda thing just one big money making machine? Because we're gonna show you some stuff as to how Black Lives Matter was just all about the money, how the transgender movement is just all about the money, and even how this whole our best friend from last year and the last 2 years, Mr. Coe, how Coe was just all about the Benjamins, baby. There was no care about people's livelihoods, no care about people's health, no care about people's anything. It was just all about the Benjamins. Lee, do you want to kick us off there? I guess the question I'm tossing up into the air is that before we get into how everything is just about the money, the first question I want to ask is, has the most, in inverted commas, tolerant group in the world become the most intolerant group in the world?
Yeah, no. So I guess by when you say the most tolerant group, he is speaking about the far left, right? The liberal group. The group that advocates for liberty and freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of human rights, freedom of choice. All those things, they advocate for human rights in essence. And if you are so liberal, then you obviously allow
Yeah.
most things. I wouldn't say everything because they do fight for justice, and I don't think that everybody should be clumped together in one box. But yes, indeed, I do believe that the most liberal group has now become the most, if I can put it, communist group, where they dictate to you, because that's communism basically. They point fingers towards conservatives and other groupings of people who have different ideologies from them, and they say that these people are fascist and these people are blah, 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 blah. And then hypocritically, they become those people that
Facts.
they point fingers at. So, but I think that happens. In saying that, I must just say that we all run the risk of, and I've said this before, we all run the risk of doing that very same thing. So I cannot say, like, in my own admission, yeah, this is what these people are doing. I'm pointing fingers because, look, the three is still pointing back at me. So I think with everybody, yeah, you must do this, right? So I think that with everybody, whatever your ideology is, there should always be room for introspection and time for reflection to sit, because you don't want to become that extreme. Even us who identify as conservatives, we go by a Christian worldview, and we believe in the Bible and so forth. But we also can't become like the far right wing people, traditionalists, who
Yeah.
only have this way. Because I mean, injustices like apartheid and the Ku Klux Klan, they were all built on the foundation of this far right, far traditionalist mindset, and
They
they use
justified
the
it.
Bible,
They-
to
yeah.
justify their racism, and they use the Bible to justify, they use religion to justify. And I think that the opposite is true of people who I would then call who borderline Satanism, because although you might not identify as a Satanist, but if you look at the ideology of Satanism in essence and with the practices that you are doing, it is borderline Satanism or atheism, if that's what you want to call it, the belief that there is no God, which is borderline Satanism. Because what does Satan want to? He wants to perpetuate the idea that there is no God and that you are God, in order to give himself the flair of God. So I think that it goes both ways. But yes, to answer your question, I do think that those who advocate for freedom, freedom of choice, freedom of speech, is now the ones that are hypocritically shutting people up. You're not allowed to say anything that goes against their narrative.
Your view, Jay.
Yeah, bro, this whole thing is like so broad, bro. But obviously, we are living in the end times, bro. And speaking about, Satan who initially wants the glory and so forth on, the Bible does speak about the end times where people will be lovers of themselves and so forth on, bro. So this whole thing, it's a spiritual thing, bro. It's a
Nah,
spiritual
definitely.
thing. It's
And-
end times, and if you read the scriptures, you see it on a day-to-day basis how things are playing out, and that's the agenda, and it's so sad. I think we spoke about it last week, bro. It's so sad that these people don't even know what they're doing. They don't
Yeah.
even know what
They
they're
don't
doing.
even realize what. I think the point you're coming from is they don't realize what they're perpetuating. And the reason they don't realize that is because they don't have the spiritual viewpoint. And even when it comes to marriage, and you hear, even when we have our shows with Anka and all that, when we speak about marriage, they don't see the spiritual side of it. So they don't think there's anything wrong. But what's wrong?
Facts,
It's
bro.
just
It's like-
this and this.
it's like,
It's like, whoa, bro, there's a part you're not seeing here.
Exactly. I was watching an interview of Lil Baby now over the weekend on the Breakfast Club, and it's so crazy how these people have living double standard lives. On the one hand, he's speaking about how he wants to help the community and the kids and so forth on. In the same breath, he's speaking about he gets these women to come to his house and all of that. So it's like, yo, bro, but he doesn't even know.
That it's double standard. Alright, so there's 2 points here. Click, just check if that thing works. I think it's M4V, and I'm not sure if M4V will work there. Are you good there? Alright, so Libby, we're gonna go into the trailer
Thank you,
of
Alicia.
We're gonna
Appreciate
go
it.
into the trailer of bro. Do you want to read some comments before we get into it?
Yeah, the first one's obviously like Nathan saying, "Good morning, ladies. Big up to the refs of at the Premier League. Come on, Jay. That man was falling already. Come on, we're done with that, bro." John Owen says, "Good morning, everyone." Felicia, "Good morning, beautiful people." Nathan Klopp likes to cry. This is football now. He's a passionate coach. Come on, bro. And Alicia saying, "Nice shades, Jay. Thank you. Appreciate it. The lights are beaming in this
Come
place."
on now, come on
I don't know
now.
how you'll do it.
It's my future that's so bright, my
Yeah.
homie. You gotta wear those shades. All right, so Candace Owens goes out and she does a whole documentary about Black Lives Matter. And this is the trailer. I have speeded it up a little bit so that it just gives you some volume there. I've speeded it up a little bit because of the I'm trying to not get copyright strike. But we're gonna first go with the trailer. This is the second part of what we want to talk about. The conversation is two-pronged. Number one, the spiritual side of things, and number two, the financial gain that these people are just massively gaining. And it has very little to do with the freedom of your choice, very little to do about your health, as we saw last year with the plan scamdemic. It has more so to do with how we can get this money out of your pocket. All right, so let's go with the trailer.
Marking,
blink light?
5, take 1.
This was the second time he exhibited that behavior, 11 months earlier.
I've never been so hurt inside. And even as I'm speaking to you right now, it's starting to come back.
This is an autonomous zone.
23 out of 24 hours in a cell. No TV, no magazines, no books, no nothing.
So anytime a customer brings a counterfeit bill, and you see we have plenty of them, we tell them, hey, this is counterfeit. If the customer insists, then we call the police.
How did you feel watching the trial?
I thought it was a sham.
All right, so I just want to start it with just you stating your name for the record, as well as your professional background.
I have been a police officer in the state of Minnesota for almost 4 decades.
Forensic criminologist and certified medical investigator and police practices expert.
Yeah, some good moments here. It's like we lived together almost, I guess, it was about 4.5 years, almost 5 years.
So you guys, in many ways, were some of the people that were the closest to him. And I don't remember seeing your faces on the news or anybody talking to you. So I guess let's just start with that. You guys knew him best. So who was George Floyd?
You're right. We haven't told our side of the story. Maybe it's time for us to tell our story, you know?
Okay, cool. So,
It's not out yet though.
now it's
Easy.
out. It came out on Friday.
Okay.
So, when was it? A year or two ago, it was the whole thing where the policeman put his knee on George Floyd's neck, and of course, he died. And of course, police brutality in the United States of America is a thing. It's a real thing. Racism towards black people in America, especially from police, and intolerance towards black people in America, especially from police and government in general, is a real thing. It's something that really does happen. And so, of course, when the cop put his knee on George Floyd's neck, George Floyd obviously died there, and it sparked riots and outrage, and people started rioting all over the United States of America. Different states started standing up, rioting, burning things, looting stores, doing things which we as South Africans are all too familiar with, sadly. And started looting, burning, stealing people's shops, and blah, 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 stealing stock out of people's stores. And it just became a massive thing. But the big kind of overarching point of the whole thing was that black people are not being taken seriously in America, that black lives are not being taken seriously, especially by police officers. And so the message behind it was all that black lives matter. And that's obviously what the whole point was about, right? And so what the initial idea of of what the movement stands for. Listen closely, what it stands for. I think there's nobody that's going to disagree with that. Even white, brown, gray, orange, purple, whoever, doesn't matter. Nobody's going to necessarily disagree with the initial thought of that black people's lives matter, as do everyone else's. Any human being's life matters, right? But more so the spotlight is particularly in this movement on black people due to the history and the nature of what's been going on and in around the United States. So she then comes out with a documentary trying to kind of find flaws in the documentary, right? So what she also highlights very, very well is that as much as the idea and the ideology of what the movement stands for is good, what actually was going on in the movement is a little bit questionable, right? And so with that, I want to toss it up into the air and then hand over to Lee as somebody that watched it. What elements do you agree with? So let me say, first of all, what I disagree with, and then you go to what you disagree with, and then we'll share it with you, Jay, and then see if you agree or disagree. Number one, I disagree with the fact that in this documentary, Candace Owens gets to a point where she kind of tries to vilify or villainize George Floyd. She tries to make him look swag. She tries to make him look bad. She tries to make him look like this criminal. He deserved to die because he was a criminal anyway. She doesn't say that blatantly or verbatimly, but she kind of hints towards, yeah, he was a criminal anyway and he was on drugs anyway, so why are we turning him into a hero? So she really, really pushes towards that, which I disagree with, because the point is, would he have died otherwise if the officer's foot wasn't on his neck? Bro, what's making that sound? Would he have died otherwise if the officer's knee wasn't on his neck? Sorry, not his foot, his knee wasn't on his neck. She tries to also play that game to say, or play that card to say that he had fentanyl in his system, he had a lot of drugs in his system. So she argues that he would have died either way. So even if the knee wasn't on the neck, he would have died either way. So why are we turning him into a hero? So to that point, I say, look, he's a person, he's a human being. He was a father, he was a brother, he was an uncle, he was someone's child, so his life does matter. So we don't want to come out and now say, yeah, but hey, look at all the things he's done, so it's also good that he died. Like, nah, bro, nobody's going to look at the thing and try to do that. And so that's where I want to disagree with Candace. There are many things I do agree with her. On that point, I want to say, nah, I disagree on that. Go for it.
So basically what the documentary is about, right? She, like I said to you, so she exposes, the documentary is the greatest lie ever sold, right? And so what she basically tries to do is she tries to expose the injustices and the scam that was the Black Lives Matter global movement, which was the Global Network Foundation, or whatever the case may be, right? Which is an organization that profited from the George Floyd death. So what they did is, this lady, one of the co-founders, her name is Patrice Collins, she started the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation during the time of the George Floyd riots. And she basically banked on the fact that there was she made money from tragedy, if I can just basically put it plain. But the thing is, like Xavier was saying, and that is one of the things that I do take issue with in the documentary, is that she does paint George to be this. I wouldn't say that she villainizes him. I would say, however, that she does bring a picture of this George Floyd character. She says that it's wrong that a criminal must be the martyr for Black Lives Matter. That is what she says, right? And so what she's basically, what I understand from it, because I'm not trying to put words in her mouth, but what I understand from it is that she's looking at this character, and in order to to support her argument against the Black Lives Matter scam, she's saying you use a criminal Can you see the irony in this? That you would use a criminal, although he died. And however, when she did make that one video, she did go live. In the beginning of the documentary, you'll see she went live when this thing first started. And when she first started, she was of the first people that spoke up against this Black Lives Matter movement. And she spoke against the George Floyd being the martyr for Black Lives Matter, being the poster child for Black Lives Matter. She was one of the first people. Candace Owens is a African American or Black American, however you choose to call it. And then she stands up.
Must we now wait for a good person?
No. So
in the States to.
So they're comparing him to Martin Luther King. They're comparing like to Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, so they said
like
that
people who
he's
stood for justice and blah blah blah. So if they died.
So people were saying like the supporters of Black Lives Matter. They said that he is like the Messiah, the second coming of like. He's basically the modern day Messiah for Black people because he was. So this is again what I'm saying. From what I understood with this documentary, she's trying to show people that how deep the scam of Black Lives Matter goes. Yeah. But she does start off, like I said to you in the live, where she speaks about, she says that she does believe that this guy, Chauvin, should in a live that I think it was on Instagram or on Twitter. She says that she does believe that Derek Chauvin, the officer who was allegedly killed George Floyd, that he must be punished according to the law for whatever wrong he did in the killing of George Floyd. However, that does now not mean that you must praise the man. And then she goes into his past and she looks at his past crimes. She looks at since like I think she takes it back to 1998. So he's been involved in drug use, selling of drugs. He went in 2007. He broke into some house and he held some lady up at gunpoint with her children in the house and stuff like that. So she says that you cannot make a man like this the savior. You cannot make a man like this the poster child of Black Lives Matter. Yes, Black lives do matter, and I don't say that there isn't police brutality, but the media has a way, and she used the quote by Malcolm X, right, that says that the media has a way of making the guilty look innocent and the innocent look guilty because they push a certain narrative, they perpetuating a certain idea that we buy into because we don't know any better. So I think that in order to prove a point in the argument of Black Lives Matter, because the reason why she used George Floyd is because on the back of his death is when the movement erupted, when people started to
that was the main trigger, yeah.
So she had to use that case of George Floyd because for the sake of her argument, he is one of the main subject matters for the cause, for the rise of Black Lives Matter. And Black Lives Matter, according to some sources, has raked in $80 million in donor funds. And we will go into
according
the
to their IRS returns or something. Yeah. So
some sources are saying 80 million and other people are saying 90 million. So, that's why I'm saying that according to certain sources.
But it's around that mark there. Yeah.
So let's say between 80 and 90 million, roundabout there, is what they raked in from donor funds for this movement of Black Lives Matter. And they said that the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation was started to challenge the racial injustices in America, specifically towards black men who are being allegedly gunned down by white police officers.
Okay.
And so that was just basically a summary of, I didn't really give my opinion, but it was basically a summary of what I gathered from the documentary.
So, here's where the problem now comes, right? The whole thing was a big scam, bro. So all that money that was made from that $80 million, right? I'm just going to go with 80 million for the sake of the conversation. That $80 million that was made, more than half of it had nothing to do with black people, nothing to do with Black Lives That Matter. Guess where it went? The transgender movement. So they spent all that money funding transgender activism, funding transgender people to go and go cut off their genitalias and all that kind of stuff, funding those movements. So she goes into depth showing that $200,000 was was given to this transgender movement. $200,000 was given to that transgender movement. $200,000 was given to this transgender movement. Because the founder of Black Lives Matter is a she's part of the LGBT community somehow. So
one of the co-founders, which is Previous Colors.
Yeah, one of the co-founders. So now the question comes. So now everyone who contributed to this picture of we're fighting police brutality, we're fighting the fact that our black kids are being gunned down innocently. We're fighting, that situation where the guy was just shot. The police came and just shot the guy. All those elements which will enrage anyone to see those videos. And I watch those videos, I get angry to see how the white cops just shoot the black kids for no reason. And then if the same situation happens with a white kid, they take the kid out of the car, they tase the kid, they do stuff, but it's a black kid, boom, just shoot him dead. No questions, no nothing. So obviously that was what people thought they were giving their money to. Come to find out, no, it was actually a whole LGBT thing that they were giving their money to, because then she took majority of that money and pumped it into LGBT. Outside of that, she took majority of that money, also a lot of that money, let me not say majority, but a lot of that money, to buy herself mansions and to buy everyone involved a lot of houses, to book private jets, to employ the people around her and just give them money. The whole element of her employing her brother for security and giving him a bunch of money, employing her siblings or whatever, and just pumping money into towards them. And so at the end of the day, the question,
people weren't
Candace,
seeing this.
Nah, bro, people didn't know. This is the whole thing that Candace is opening up. At the end of the day, what Candace is saying is that, okay, guys, you sold us the idea that we are giving money into this. But you didn't tell us we're giving money to the transgender movement. You didn't tell us we're giving money so that you can go buy lavish mansions and stuff. In fact, the one guy says BLM stands for buying lavish mansions or something. And so she's saying, but so now you were actually disingenuous in your approach. Then you actually lied to the mainstream to say that we're fighting for police brutality, against police brutality and all this. But what we're actually fighting for is the LGBT movement. So here's the $1 million question then. Is this whole thing just about money then? Making money? Is the whole thing just about... Which will bring us to our next video. I don't know if you have that other video ready there. But not yet. We're going to still get into it. But I want to ask you then now, Jay. As far as that whole story is concerned, do you feel that it was disingenuous for her to pull that move on the people?
Of course, but I actually need to go and watch this thing. You said it came out on Friday. Probably gonna watch today, but most definitely, obviously, if you're fighting and standing for a cause, bro, and now next thing you're using that to fund your pockets and to buy cars and stuff, something needs to happen. Something needs to take place. That's definitely wrong, bro. You cannot do that. So for me, I'm on nah.
Did you want to jump in on something there?
Well, yeah. So I watched. I was making notes about what exactly they said. Well, not exactly, but some of the things that the money was actually spent on. So, like I said, let's say we're going for the $80 million that was raked in. So I just need to mention that Black Lives Matter as an organization was actually established in 2013, but it really started the foundation, the Global Network Foundation, where they started to rake in funds, really escalated or skyrocketed in 2020 on the back of George Floyd's death, right? And so that's when people started, and I mean celebrities. I'm talking about the one celebrity in particular that wants their money back now is Sharon Osbourne. And she was like, you guys lied to us. I want my money back, because apparently none of the money is actually going, very little money is actually going towards fighting racial injustices and towards the families, the victims'
they
families.
They didn't even
and
pay
stuff
George
like
Floyd's rent, bro, where he was staying.
Yeah,
they didn't even pay his broken car standing there in the yard. The people that they interviewed,
they can't
the
see
car standing there.
Nothing was done for George. We asked the question, what was actually done for George Floyd, who became the poster child of your movement in 2020?
Where the riots were going on, they didn't fix those shops. They didn't fix
So,
the city.
and the thing is, the exploitation goes further, where they use his family, like his brother and his baby mama, and they use them for the campaign, the George Floyd campaign. But his roommates are saying that they didn't come not once. They don't even know where George Floyd lives. His family. George Floyd's family doesn't even know where he lives. And after his death, they didn't even come. His stuff, they didn't come to collect his stuff. They didn't come to collect his broken car. It's still standing in their yard. And they're like, we don't have now the money to now tow this car away still and stuff like that. And Candace Owens, ironically enough, is the one that paid George Floyd's back rent. The back rent, the money that he owed his roommates. She paid them for his back rent, and she paid to tow his car away. And this Black Lives Matter, who uses George Floyd as the poster child, allegedly has done nothing for him or his family. He's most the victim and he's the poster child, and they've done nothing for him. But to just go to according to new release tax filings, this is what they spent the money on, right? Or at least what they found in the tax filings, what was filed. In 2021, which is interesting to mention, there was 0 board meetings. This was last year. There was 0 board meetings and 1 board member registered to Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. So they used donor money to hire friends and family. Almost $1 million was given to one. So almost $1 million was given to Damon Turner, who is Patrice Culler's baby daddy. We don't know why. It was just given to him, $1 million of the donor funds. $840,000 was given to Patrice's brother Paul. She hired him for security. She hired a mother and a sister to work at the Black Lives Matter LA mansion. She says now that they no longer work there. And then there's this guy who was an executive of the Black Lives Matter Global Foundation Network. His name is Shalomaya Bowers. She paid him $2.1 million for consulting. Funny enough, they found out that this guy, Shalomaya Bowers, he pocketed over $10 million from the donations that was given. So $10 million of the donations that was given to Black Lives Matter, the foundation, was in his own personal piggy bank, is what they were saying. They also spent $1.2 million to lobby the impeachment of Trump. They spent $73,000. Patrice Cullers, she spent $73,000 on a private jet. They used the LA mansion. She used the LA mansion for 2 parties, although they said that she did reimburse them, private parties. So there was 25 million rand in grants given to 31 groups. Xavier mentioned some of the groups. It was they found out that it's crazy. Some of the groups was the transgender groups. There was a couple of transgender organizations that they gave money to. So it wasn't even for Black Lives Matter. It was for transgenders, for the transgender movement. And then it says here that they spent money on. I'm gonna get to it now. Yeah, they spent money on strippers. They spend money on strippers, on BDSM workers, on peep show workers, on escorts, on phone sex operators, and webcam performers. So this is where the money was going to. This Black Lives Matter money was going to these organizations and these groups. They banked $41 million, including $31 million in stock. And there was...
They went to go buy stock and shares with that money.
And... It's funny that they're saying that it's for the empowerment of black people, but they had 50,000 volunteers and 1 paid employee. So this is the scam of Black Lives Matter. And again, it's on the back of George Floyd's death, which they blew up so hugely. But you go to the place where he died in Minneapolis, where now the Black Lives Matter movement has declared that an autonomous state. So no government involvement. They declare.
Autonomous zone.
An autonomous zone, in the state of Minneapolis. And they say that area is owned by Black Lives Matter, right? And so the police cannot get involved, the government cannot get involved because that's what they claim it to be. But you look at the state of that place and it looks like a ghost town.
It looks untidy. So which brings me to the next point, right? Which we're asking, is this all just about money, right? And we clearly saw there that everything is being pushed again to the LGBT movement, right? Which brings us to our next video. And the next video was uncovered by a reporter named Matt Welsh. And he uncovers the story about, which I fully believe this was the exact same song sheet that they read from when they were doing our dear friend Covey from last year and the year before. I think this is the exact same song sheet they were reading from, because everyone was working in exact lockstep. Everyone was doing the same thing at the same time, listening from the same person to do the next move. And none of it was making sense. Absolutely none of it was making sense. Even with our dear friend Co. 94% that you're going to survive just like you would have survived a flu or a cold, the common cold. But the way it was publicized and the way it was marketed put up so many red flags for me. Ask Leandra from the beginning. I was like, why is there so much marketing going into pushing this thing? Do you really truly believe that these people are concerned about our health? Do you really truly believe? Because listen to this. If you don't have medical aid and you go to any hospital or to any whatever else, they're going to turn you away, bro. They couldn't give two craps about if you're going to die outside in your car or if you're going to die right there in the passage or in the foyer. If you go to any hospital facility right now, they couldn't care less if you're sitting there and dying there in the foyer. They couldn't care less. Now all of a sudden, out of the blue, they are so overly concerned about your health and your well-being. That puts up so many red flags, and to anybody that can think for themselves needs to sit down and think, how about now? It's like, why are you also worried now out of the blue about my livelihood and my... No, man. So whenever the mainstream machine starts pushing a particular narrative or agenda, there are two factors at play. Number one, finance. And number two, in fact, number two, finance. But number one is a spiritual factor at play here, a massive spiritual factor. And so here's the next video that I want to show you guys. I'm going to count you down, Jesse, so that we can start at the same time. And the next video is about the transgender movement. And that's why, now listen to everything I just said now. And then hear what this official goes to the hospitals and tells the people. You will do this or else. And if anybody comes here with your moral judgments and your Christian viewpoints, you will be dealt with accordingly. It's a blatant threat to say that if you don't move how we tell you to move, you will get fired, you will get blackballed, your social media will be removed. And we see it all across the board how they're doing this to people, how they're deleting people's things. I mean, we're going to get to PayPal in a minute. Even PayPal now is saying that we will take 21,000 rand out of your account, $2,100, which is more than 21,000 rand out of your account if you say anything we disagree with. So you tell me that's not communism at its best and at its highest, bro. We look at communist China, we look at North Korea, and we sit here and say, how can he do that? How can they just newsflash? They're doing it to us all the time, bruh. And they first started with shadow banning. Then it started with dancing around. Now it's just plain down. Do this or else. After COVID, it's straight. Do this or else. So here's the next video. 3, 2, 1.
Starting in January 1st of 2017, according to the Affordable Care Act, insurance carriers are mandated to cover medical expenses for trans folks. Some of our BUMC financial folks in October of 2016, starting a couple years ago, put down some costs of how much money we think each patient would bring in. And this is only including top surgery. This isn't including any bottom surgery. And it's a lot of money. These surgeries make a lot of money. So female to male chest reconstruction can bring in $40,000. A patient just on routine hormone treatment, who I'm only seeing a few times a year, can bring in several $1,000s. That requires a lot of visits and labs. It actually makes money for the hospital. Now these I got from the internet, but it's from the Philadelphia Center for Transgender Surgery, which does a lot of surgery for patients. And I just want to give you an idea of how much these bottom surgeries are making And I think this has to be an underestimate. This is for a vaginoplasty. They're quoting roughly around $20,000 for a vaginoplasty, but that doesn't include your hospital stay, that doesn't include your post-op visits, that doesn't include your anesthesia, your OR. So I would think that this has to be a gross underestimate. I think that's just like the surgeon's piece of it, which anybody who's ever been in the hospital knows that that's like 10% of it. And then the female to male bottom surgeries, these are huge money makers. Again, I think this has to be an underestimate that they're quoting around $20,000 for a phalloplasty. There's been different things that I've read that said it could be up to $100,000. Dr. Winokur, who's our surgeon, says that there's entire clinics where the entire clinic is supported just by their phalloplasties, and that is like a fraction of the surgeries that they're doing. These surgeries are labor intensive, they require a lot of follow-ups, they require a lot of OR time, and they make money. They make money for the hospital.
If you are going to assert conscientious objection, you have to realize that that is problematic. You are doing something to another person, and you are not paying for the cost for your belief. I think that is a real, I think that's a real issue. So I think, so yes, Vanderbilt, if someone has a conscientious objection to participating in this sort of surgery, it probably has to accommodate you to the extent that you can find another person who can do your job, who doesn't have an objection, other things of that nature. But I just want you to take home that saying that you're not going to do something because of your conscientious, because of your religious beliefs, is not without consequences. And it should not be without consequences. And I just want to put that out there. We are given enormous, if you don't want to do this kind of work, don't work.
That's a blatant threat. That's a blatant threat. Okay, so the first video. No, that was the transgender surgeries. So the first video is her saying, and Lee jotted down some of the stuff that she was saying, how much money they make for top surgeries, bottom surgeries. And she says that's not even 10% because now you must keep coming back for the medication every time. Because remember, this is not, contrary to popular belief, you thinking that you're a man or a woman is not natural. So that's why you have to keep doing medication, you have to keep doing surgeries, you have to keep on, you have to maintain it because it's unnatural. Something that's natural. I don't have to keep going for surgeries for my private. It's just, it happens because that's how the natural progression of my body grows, and that's what happens, right? But if you're going to come and have to doctor things and manufacture things, man-made manufacture, then you're going to have to maintain it all the time, right? So she's saying, once we trap the people to believe that this is natural and it's normal and it's nice and everyone must do it and it's freedom of choice and we're doing it
for their mental health,
then she said even people. Goes one step further. Let's try and trap them earlier. So how are we going to trap them earlier? We're going to flood it on TikTok. We're going to flood it on social media. We're going to shove it in people's faces. If anybody disagrees with it, we're going to shove it in the movies, in the music. If anybody disagrees with it, then the second video is what she says. If you want to insert your conscientious ideologies, you will be dealt with accordingly. But that's a threat. That's a blatant threat to say. And then she even says, if you want to come here with your religious beliefs,
it's not without consequence.
It's not without consequence. So, bruh, I'm telling you, that's what they told people last year also with COVID. When they were, when people were losing their lives mysteriously. Let me say it that way. When you take your father to the hospital and you just have to stand there and you don't know what's going on behind that curtain and just get a phone call 5 minutes later to say your father didn't make it. I'm telling you, they were telling the people the exact same thing that this woman just told those doctors and nurses now. If you want to come and tell us something else, you will be dealt with accordingly. So you better dance to our tune or else. And it just so happens that someone recorded this and now the rest of the world knows about it. Because that's what's been going on behind the scenes this whole time. That's why we're wondering, how come I can't, when my mother gets a little bit short breath, why can't I know? Why can't we visit my parents? But it's in the same like a flu. Why can't I go? Why can't I know what's happening? Why now? That's why. That's why. Because they were told, you tell the client or the patient There's nothing you can hear about this thing. You must just hear and wait. And the next thing you get a phone call, your mother, your father didn't make it. Your grandfather, your opa didn't make it. That's why, bruh, I feel so strongly about, my mother was sick to death. And I said, not a chance I'm taking her to the hospital. Because I knew this was the kind of crap that they're busy with. Not a chance I'm taking. We stayed at home. We put the oxygen on. And she's alive today. I'm willing to put money on it if I took my mother to any hospital. I wouldn't have had a mother now. Because this is the kind of crap they're being told. If you want to come here with your conscience. Because now they make you a chronic patient. They tell you straight, okay, we're going to give them this. Because now the new information about the injections is coming out that it's causing blood clots. It's causing people to get heart attacks. It's causing people to get strokes. So what does that mean? Now the CDC comes out and says we're giving people anticoagulants. Anticoagulants. So they're saying if the people start complaining about blood clots and what, now we're going to feed them this. This is the next drug we're going to feed them. And it just keeps going and going and going. If you don't think this is about money, then I can't have this. Then we can't have this conversation. Then you're just going to disagree with what I'm saying. That's it, bro. That's on you. But clearly you can see somebody was sitting and recording with their phones like this. I don't think this was ever meant to come out. You know why it was never meant to come out? Because they backpedaled on this decision now. But anyway, what did she say there that is of importance?
So before I comment on that, it's interesting because like Xavier was saying, the minute you mention stuff like this and you start bringing in the financial, because my thing is, why are you pushing so hard for something like this? Why do you make sure that everybody, it's like, why are you a drill sergeant over the decisions that people make if it's not going to benefit you financially?
And punish those who disagree with you.
I don't see how somebody would push an idea so hard if it's not going to benefit them, especially financially. Remember, money is the currency like that of control. People use money is power. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. And people want absolute power over certain, over people in general because of money, right? And so it was interesting that in 2000, I don't know, do you guys remember, but I remember that in 2019, there was a conference that took place in September in Geneva, Switzerland, right? And it was a doctors' conference. And this was the International Conference for Prevention and Infection Control. And there was a bunch of clinicians, surgeons, doctors, medical professionals that all flooded to Switzerland to have. And now you're asking this doctor that you mentioned on the transgender surgeries, right? Or they call it gender affirming surgeries. Sorry, most how they play with language to make it sound so much more nice. And so now they had this conference to discuss prevention and infection control, right? And it's just before the outbreak of COVID-19. This was in September 2019. We know that the end of 2019, it was first detected in China. Then we got our first case in March, and then we had our lockdown in March of 2020. And people are like, yeah, if you say that something there was discussed about, because you're asking yourself, how is it that all medical professionals were tight-lipped about what this thing is actually about? They were driving it full force. And even though they didn't know much about it, they were like robots. No, this is right. What? Then they fight you when you have a differing opinion and you're asking about your own health. You're like, but tell me more about this vaccine, for instance. Tell me more about the vaccine. Tell me more about...
And why do they make you sign that thing to say that if something goes wrong with you, it's on you?
That's my thing. So it's the same with this. Now they are forcing you, and they're saying to you that, what did she say? She says that if you assert your conscientious objectives, there's going to be a problem, and it's not without consequence. Since when? Since when do you dictate to another person what they believe and what they don't believe? So it's another thing with the abortion story. If a doctor, if it goes against his or her religious beliefs and you don't want to do it, you are the villain. You are the villain. Whereas, is it not that when you take an oath as a medical professional, you do what's best for your patient? You do what's best for your patient. How is something that is so damaging and something that a patient must constantly come back for in order to rectify, in order to fix the follow-up surgeries like the gender-affirming surgeries? How is something like this beneficial to a patient? And if you are trying to advise your patient on another route, like, you know what, maybe it is gender dysphoria. Maybe it is more mental than it is physical, and maybe we need to deal with that.
Maybe
if
there's
you
some trauma
say
in
something
your past.
like that,
Maybe, yeah.
why is it that you can't give advice like that anymore as a doctor? Why? Because it's not beneficial. It doesn't make money. It doesn't rake in as much money as what a reassignment surgery would rake in, as what hormone treatments will rake in. That is the reason why.
So at the end of the day, people's lives don't really matter.
Nah, bro, their money matters.
The money matters.
So and
I mean, we had a doctor on the show, remember,
Mm.
about a year ago, bro, and I don't know, he lost his job.
Yeah, because he didn't want to go with the whole COVID story, and he said, "Nah, he's not gonna dance to that tune."
I mean, this lady says that she keeps saying it makes a lot of money. This is a big money maker.
You know what was a telltale sign for me? But she says an insurance is mandated to cover the surgery, which means by law, insurance can't say no. The medical aid can't say no to it. They must cover the surgery. Bro, if you go for face reconstruction because you were in an accident or what, they tell you plain no, it's cosmetics.
Mm.
If you try and go fix your teeth or whatever, they tell you no, it's cosmetics. But is this not cosmetics?
Even babies that are born with a cleft palate, medical aids don't cover that in full.
They say no, it's cosmetics. So
then mothers and fathers must now raise funds for something that the child didn't ask for. But now you want to do gender reassignment surgery in a pediatrics clinic. Because this is a Vanderbilt, it's called Vanderbilt Pediatric Gender Clinic.
So it's for children.
But a cleft palate child, or for instance, like we were speaking about the cochlea thing, when a child needs cochleas because they're deaf, that medical aid doesn't cover that.
But this one, they mandate.
But the
You know what it means
confusion-
to be mandated? It means you must. You don't have a choice. So to me, bro, if the money is not it, then I don't know. Then I don't know. We're not gonna sit around the same fire. But the other factor is it's a spiritual factor, and you alluded to it earlier. And maybe just jump into that deep as far as we're living in a time now where the Bible predicted these things long time ago. When you read the book of Revelation, you saw. I could have told you that's what's going to happen long time ago because Revelation predicts it. It not predicts it. It says that this is exactly what's going to happen. There will be one world order. They're going to force everyone. Christians are going to be persecuted. I mean, she says if you want to bring your religious beliefs, which religious belief is she talking about? It's either one or two. It's either Islam or Christianity. Those are the two big ones. So that's already.
And Judaism.
And Judaism is a big one. But they lean, the Judeo-Christian worldview leans, they borrow a lot from one another. They see the world very, very similarly. So, which religion are you there now saying can't ever say?
Nah, it's obviously us, bro. We up there. But yeah, bro, love of money it's a big thing. And obviously how Satan is using this, bro, he's not blatantly showing you that, yo, we want the funds and so forth on. He's doing it undercover.
He's saying it's for your benefit.
It's for your benefit and so forth on. But obviously, the independent thinkers know exactly what's going on.
You can see it from afar. Gents,
Yeah, and people are sheep, bro.
we reached out time. Closing remarks. Is there any comments there too? People are scared of this conversation, but it needs to be out because we do everything the Americans do. We want to, if the Americans say jump, we say how high. If you think about it, if even Halloween was never a thing in South Africa. Halloween was never a thing. Pumpkins, and we don't even have those kind of pumpkins, that big orange ones.
Pumpkin farms and stuff.
We don't have that. I lived in America for half a year, and I was there during this time. I saw them going pumpkin picking and whatever else. So It's a thing there. It's like a thing that they do in America. Now all of a sudden, my children must dress up Halloween outfits now because it's Halloween. Now I'm asking, we had Guy Fawkes at some point. Was probably the closest thing we had to Halloween. But now, if America says, then everyone must say, That's why I was truly impressed by that interview they did with the Kenyan president. When he said plain down, he said, no, that sounds like a first world problem to me, bruh. You must sort yourself out there. We got our own stuff that we need to sort out. We have unemployment, we have this, we have that. We here in South Africa trying to deal with American problems when our unemployment is over 60%.
Youth unemployment.
Huh? We don't have electricity. We don't have water. We must use... Do you know we use generators every day for the past couple of years now? That's third world at its best, bruh. You want to come talk about gender reassignment surgery? When do you even get that kind of money for that when we don't even have electricity, bro? We don't even have water. And that's what the Kenyan president said. He said, we have problems that people don't even eat, bro.
Yep.
You want to come and put your American problems on us here. And to me, that I was like, yo, us, bro. And so that's the thing. Obviously, I'm coming from a Christian worldview, so you know, for those of you who don't understand the things of God, you're gonna not agree with me anyway. But it's fine. Somebody's got to say something, and the voices are becoming stronger. The Andrew Tates of the world's voices are starting to build momentum. The Jordan Peterson's voices are starting to build momentum. The Candace Owens voices are starting to build momentum. It's just sad that it has to come from people who are not necessarily in the Christian space like that. Given that Candace Owens is a full confessed Christian, Jordan Peterson is Christian, Matt Welch is Christian.
We're not too sure about Andrew.
Andrew Tate is Bicky.
Andrew Tate has a lot of Christian values.
God is working on him.
I pray that God works on him properly. He displays a lot of Christian values as far as his way of seeing the world.
He's Christian.
Yeah, a lot of the things how he sees is comes from a Christian worldview. But that's my time, guys. That's my time.
In closing, you know what was interesting for me, and this is why I say, and I've learned to do this, to not just jump on the bandwagon after everybody says something. And that's the reason why you'll always find me like coming with notes like this, because I don't like to just go with, I saw this tweet and I'm going to go with that tweet. I always do my research with it. I remember in 2021, right? 2020. So the 25th of May is when George Floyd was killed. And then that was the 25th of May. And then I did a campaign just before that. I was on set. I did a campaign for a specific brand, an ad campaign for a specific brand, and I took pictures behind the scenes and stuff like that. And I didn't post until the ad was obviously, flighted, until the ad eventually flighted. And so the ad flighted that week of George Floyd's death. And so then I decided, okay, now I can post my pictures that I took behind the scenes. And I posted a picture on the 2nd of June, and I'll never forget it. And on the 2nd of June is when everybody was posting their black squares. And I was interested to find out what is this black square. So before I now go and post the black square, I want to now know what is the black square all about. And the black square was during that time of the riots in 2020. So it was winter year and it was summer in the United States, and there was huge summer riots. Xavier spoke about it in the beginning of the show. Looting buildings, burning down of buildings, basically like what we saw in July 2021 year by us last year. That is basically what happened in 2020.
Just so by the way, there wasn't a spike in COVID while the people were together.
Yeah,
anyway,
that was quite interesting. There was millions of people out on the streets, and they were...
COVID was on a break.
There was millions of people in the streets. They were looting. They were burning buildings. They were on top of each other. Anyway, so people posted #BLM. So I was like, okay, let me go see what is this all about. I went. I checked out. I said, okay, so it's a Black Lives Matter. I went into the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation website, and I saw, okay, this is what they're doing. Defund the police. I was like, okay, I don't sit to like with this defund the police. And then because I was familiar with the George Floyd incident, and just like Xavier, I was outraged by it because I was like, I don't care who this man was or what he did. The way in which he was killed, there's no justification for that, right? And I was also further enraged because I know as a brown person in South Africa and our history with apartheid, what it's like to be discriminated based on your skin color. And I personally feel, I've spoken about it before, that it's reversed now. It's black people doing it to brown people. And we were listening this morning to the Discam story. And so the thing is, I'm not just going to stand here because everybody's going with the mainstream narrative that this is what you must do. So I was like, I'm not going to post the black square because I don't sit well with it. Then I went on and I read further, and then they were also saying that, stop posting the black square. So people just started posting the black square, and they're like, don't post the black square because the black square is helping us with the riots. It's telling us who is where, and it helps us to rally people together in a specific group. That is what the hashtag BLM black square is about. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to post this black square. And so I saw people were getting like hundreds and thousands of likes on this black square, and I was like, why must I like your black square? And just to say on that post, I don't get many likes. I don't get much interaction on my Instagram, but I'm also not after the likes. But I just want to paint a picture for you. So people were getting hundreds of thousands of likes on a black square. I post this picture, right, on the 2nd of June. So it's this picture where I'm standing in the mirror in my robe behind the scenes. And I posted, my caption is, between the scenes, from being on set from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. This was the best I could come up with, taking selfies between the scenes. Hashtag actors live, hashtag set, hashtag lockdown, da 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 da. And I was now with my mask on and whatever. And that post only got 95 likes, right? And normally my other post before that would get get in the hundreds or whatever. But I'm seeing that now the difference, right? And this is not about the likes, but I'm trying to show you guys something that people didn't really know what this BLM was all about. Most people didn't go do the research on what BLM is all about. But we are all jumping on the bandwagon. And this is what Malcolm X says, and Candace Owens starts off the documentary with this, right? And I just want to read it for you. So Malcolm X says that the media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and make the guilty innocent. And this is exactly what the media does with all these movements. That's the reason why with BLM, the media, it was a media pundit that just like kept pushing this BLM. Nobody really knows, or nobody cares to go and do further research as to what is this BLM all about. Where is my money going to? Because there was a global foundation created for BLM. That's the reason why they could make between 80 or 90 million dollars just between 2020 and now. That is what they could make just on that, because the media started pushing this narrative. You go and you look, go Google it. I tried to Google it for the sake of the show. The scams of BLM. You will not find it. You will rather find the New York Times and these left-wing publications and these left-wing ideologists, news outlets that are pushing a certain narrative to cover up the story. It's the same thing with COVID-19. When those documents came out on the vaccines and the dangers of the vaccines, and you will not find that on the first page of the search history. But and many people, and what the media has done is, especially with the rise of the internet, is that they've made us lazy thinkers and lazy workers. We don't even care to do it. I showed Xavier a TikTok video the other day of these Islamic guys that go onto the streets and they try to
debunk the Bible.
To debunk the Bible. So they go and they use two scripture references, one in one book in the Bible and one in another book. And in the one it says that I can't remember his name, but one of the Bible characters was 22 years old when he became king, and in another passage it says he was 42 years old. So they're trying to show, like, look at the discrepancies in the Bible. It's not correlating. And that video had, I don't know how many million views, how many million likes, how many thousands. And this one guy takes the time.
He was born on a leap year.
This one guy takes the time and he's like, okay, fine, I see what these Islamic guys are. Let's go look at the text. He uses 3 different Bibles, 3 different translations. And that is not, it was all false. It was all false. That those Islamic guys says. But nobody took the time to go and see. Check, but let me go and scripture. I must have a Bible. I have an app. I can even go Google it, for goodness sake. And nobody took the time to do that. One guy comes out and he's like, wait, let me see you, man. And he does a TikTok video to show No, these guys are lying. He was never 42
You
years
can
old.
basically go on
You can
online
basically
and say
go-
anything.
Yeah, you can
Exactly.
say 90% of this and this, people will just jump on it.
And that is what
Nobody
that,
will think
that is
for
what
themselves.
that is what angers me about our generation.
And then
is
want to
that
use the voice. It
we've-
has been said.
Yeah, we've got according to science, but then they the very advocates for science and scientific research are the very ones that want to say that yeah. When you come with actual scientific facts, they're like, no, that is biased. But in your hello, hypocrite, is that not what you doing?
Yeah, bruh. So at the end of the day, the truth has become offensive, and that's the problem we have. But we will continue to speak the truth, and until somebody can prove that we are talking nonsense. But let's continue to speak the truth. We're not scared of the backlash. We've had backlash. We've seen backlash. We can go for it.
My TikToks are full of
We can go
backlash.
for it, bro. No stress. I've been having backlash since 2010. If ever you out in the mainstream or out in the public, someone's gonna have something to say about you. Take it on the chin. You can have an open
At a
debate,
chin.
and we can
Yes,
take
sir.
that conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, that is our time. But see you on the next one. Love you. Goodbye.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to it.
Good morning to the folks. What up to the youngins and bless up to the world.
And then Jay just put your info on blast like that.
It's what the people want to know, bro. My bad.
Nah, bro.